Comments are still headed.
What else is on?
Yeah, let's see what else is.
Coming to you now from the largest studio ever constructed, it's The Truman Show!
Yeah!
Good morning!
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Close your eyes.
The Truman Show is littered with flat Earth references.
Why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that. If he was absolutely determined to discover the truth, there's no way we could prevent him. Ultimately, Truman prefers his cell.
Hidden Messages in The Truman Show. It's co-produced by Richard Luke Rothschild. The Truman Show is a movie made by the Rothschilds family. The Truman Show logo shows a picture of Earth, which doesn't make a lot of sense for the Truman Show itself. You would think that it showed a picture of Truman's town. But the funny thing is, the dome that Truman lives in over there in Hollywood actually pans out and turns into Earth. Right here, it just changes from Truman's dome into the sphere Earth. So it seems that the Truman Show logo itself is showing that this is not a story about one town, it's a story about the Earth.
Personally, I think the unconquered South face is the only one worth scaling. It's a 20,000-foot sheer wall of ice, but that's never stopped me before.
The stars are fake or artificial, and there's actually a rip in the dome. Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky. When this star fell in an old trailer, it showed an actual rip in the dome. However, in the actual movie, that's kind of covered up with the lamppost and the rip is not shown. About halfway through the movie, it shows the dome-style Earth. The guy picks up a pepperoni pizza slice and the newspaper says classified. Now, typically it would say classifieds. However, in this case, the S is omitted, and that means that it is not a classified section. It means that the information that they're displaying is classified. There's a globe in his garden that he later uses to sneak out when he's escaping from the town. Here his friend has moved that globe aside, and he says that Truman's gone. Truman's radio is another sphere Earth. He does have vitamin D, which he needs to take because he's not getting any real sunlight. And as we've just seen, Truman's Earth is an actual flat Earth with a dome over it. Truman is leaving in a boat. It's called the Santa Maria. The Santa Maria here is indicative that he's going to a new world. The weather starts out fair, but quickly gets very bad, which is exactly what happens when you sail to Antarctica. They call it the Roaring 40s, the Furious 50s, and the Shrieking or Screaming 60s. And once you get down to 70 degrees south, things start not so windy anymore. But the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s are what's depicted here, and Truman's going through them. There's one more very quick hint that he is heading to Antarctica, where we can see that the compass is spinning. This is something that happens when you go close to the South Pole. Your compass will just spin. So, in addition to the bad weather, the compass spinning, once Truman finally escapes the storm, he runs smack into an ice wall. And we can argue that it's not ice here, it's sky, but it would be the firmament then. So he's either hit the firmament or he's hit the ice wall. Now the staircase here may be a reference back to the very beginning of the movie where he was talking about climbing a 20,000 foot unconquered wall of ice. So here he is, come to the ice wall or come to the firmament, and he has to climb up in order to get to the top of it. where he finds the exit. He then exits from the realm, leaves the firmament, and goes to a new world. He takes a bow.
Not everybody can be a robot polisher.
Is this your country?
No, my country lies beyond. But you should know that if you continue, there is no return.
Close your eyes.
Uncensored. I refuse to be silenced or muzzled. Unafraid. No man will intimidate me. Unstoppable.
Good evening and welcome to the Stu Peters Show. So we talked to a man called Dave Weiss, a so-called expert on the flat Earth theory. We've had other guests on the program. We've talked about the firmament and controlled weather and the worldwide institutional subversion of science that has pigeonholed us into one train of thought, one theory. A theory that's often devoid of fact, but it's forced upon us anyways. But the truth is, no matter what all of the experts and their parrots have to say, no one really knows anything about the inner workings of our planet. And the few who may aren't sharing that information with us. So we're spoon-fed stories of this neatly put together phenomena, this round ball globe Earth hurling through space at some odd 68,000 miles per hour, while this thing called gravity, which we see defied on a regular basis, somehow manages to hold us all into place and keep us all feeling like we're right side up. We're upright. Even when we're actually hanging off the side of the planet or living upside down. And of course, reinforcing this narrative are these computer-generated images of Earth that are produced by NASA and are supposedly the result of hundreds and thousands of individual pictures all being pieced together and made into this perfect spherical Earth for us all to gawk at and marvel at. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. We're told that all of this is reality and that this has been the accepted line of thinking for hundreds of years, and that before that, people were just stupid. But you know what? None of that is true. It's fake. It's not true at all. You know, less than 100 years ago, there was huge contingents of educated and prominent people who not only believed and thought that they could prove that the Earth was flat, but some of them believed that if it was really of the rounded variety, it would be hollow. One of those people was the famous Admiral Richard Byrd. Byrd dedicated immense stretches of his life to exploring the regions known as the North and South Pole, where he reportedly believed one could access the Earth's interior through a network of real-life rabbit holes or access new lands on the other side of a massive ice wall that most people know as Antarctica. So before, during, and after World War II, all of the world's major players, from Nazi Germany to the United States and the British Empire and the Soviet Union, they all wanted a piece of Antarctica. And after the war, the United States sponsored Operation High Jump, in which Admiral Byrd led an Antarctic expedition of thousands of American sailors and scientific personnel. But while most of the crewmen never saw the Antarctic interior, a select handful of them did. And it was there that they discovered freshwater lakes, full of warm water, surrounded by over 300 square miles of mountains, free from snow and ice. And while this may contradict everything that you've ever learned in public schools, all of your science teachers, what they told you about Antarctica, it was caught on film. And it was released to the public. Released to the public in a 1948 documentary called The Secret Land. 1948. What an interesting year. The film was backed by the United States Navy and documented firsthand by the Byrd expedition to Antarctica. It wasn't until years later that this information was memory holed. But it still exists. And in this video clip, you can see it for yourself. You can hear the narrator describe the warm water Antarctic oasis that's full of coal and other vital minerals. Watch.
Bunger leans forward in amazement. His eyes have caught a sudden and unbelievable change in scenery. The universal white is turned to chocolate brown, dotted with blue. A cameraman goes into action. 300 square miles of land without snow. Land that might be in New Mexico or Arizona. pictures alone will prove Bunger has discovered a warm oasis in the shadow of the pole. It is for such supreme moments as this that men brave the hardships of exploration. The astounding, undreamed of fact is that they are over a chain of warm water lakes whose shores, except for small patches, are free of ice and snow. Commander Bunger circles the largest lake in sight, 5 miles long. He comes in to make a landing. Water temperatures must be recorded. Samples taken. He finds the water fresh, the temperature 38 degrees Fahrenheit. On the shores are vast deposits of coal and of minerals of the utmost importance to civilization.
So that actually happened. And the United States government admitted it. So now the question is, what else did they find? There's been reports that in this secret diary kept by Admiral Byrd, he described a lush green region of Antarctica. He called it the other side of Antarctica. He said that it was beyond a massive ice wall. There's been claims which have been reported by mainstream outlets like the History Channel that Byrd said that he encountered some type of advanced civilization during his time at our so-called South Pole. But what we do know for sure is that the years after Operation High Jump, Admiral Byrd went on live TV and described a massive untouched region on the other side of Antarctica and its ice wall. He said that it's at least the size of the United States and that it's full of the world's most sought-after minerals. Take a look.
Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Well, it's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well,
we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now there's evidence of many other minerals. We're pretty sure there's oil. Now that coal shows the bottom of the world. Now by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
Well,
it was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
Is it?
You know, it's pretty obvious. There are many things that we just don't know, that we aren't allowed to know about Antarctica. And it's worth noting that even if you wanted to start looking into it and you had the financial capability and the resources to start looking into it, you can only do so much research because you're not allowed to investigate Antarctica firsthand. No, treaties signed by countries from all over the planet bar private exploration of Antarctica and anywhere remotely close to it. Why? The question here is obvious. What are they hiding? What the hell is going on in Antarctica? Frankie Stocks has been asking the same questions on X, doing some research and reporting on this on his own, and he joins us now. Frankie, so is it flat?
You know, Stu, I am not ashamed to say that I'm leaning toward the possibility that Antarctica is the massive ice wall that it was hypothesized to be for generations of explorative-minded humans before we just settled on this neat little idea that it's some kind of useless continent stuck on the bottom of the world. You know, there's more questions than answers by far about Antarctica. You know, if you listen to Admiral Byrd talk, it sounds like it is an ice wall. It sounds like there is more land beyond this. You know, to me, that would mean that it's probably flat. You know, or something that we would consider to be flat while looking at it. You know, a big disc, something like that. You know, and even if it's not, what are they hiding? Now, at this point, man, I'm open to any possibility about this place. You know, I started posting about this on X, and immediately I start getting hounded by people ridiculing you for asking questions or for actually looking back into our own country's historical archives and saying, what did our government, what did our military find at this place, and why aren't we allowed to know about it? What were the Germans interested in Antarctica for? In the 1930s, they wanted to get there. There was a race to get there and start building permanent settlements in Antarctica. The Germans were dropping thousands of swastikas out of airplanes as if they were dropping bombs, but they were doing it to mark off territory. So the biggest governments, the most prominent people on Earth, they all wanted a piece of this place. And they've gone a long way to discredit Admiral Richard Byrd, his own library that is named after him, because this guy was also going to the North Pole, looking probably for the same thing, for additional land, for an additional civilization, something of that sort. The own Richard Byrd library has tried to discredit him and say that he never actually made it to the North Pole. They call him a liar. His family vehemently defends him. They say that he's not a liar, that he did make it there. But what is the motive for, after decades and decades and decades, to start saying that he never actually made it there? Is it because what he found is not consistent with what we've been told is there? And so the North and the South Pole, or as they're called, it's really the same story of secrecy at both. But I think that the possibility that Admiral Byrd found this additional land that he spoke of on TV, as you mentioned there, in Antarctica is very great. And that's, you can get to the North Pole. There's business conducted around the so-called North Pole, but not in Antarctica, unless you are a government hand-selected guy to go down there and get to see what they want you to see.
Are there any pictures from outer space?
Not that I know of. Just the other day.
So wait,
NASA
hold on. I just want to clarify here. So we have an international space station. We purportedly have hundreds, if not thousands, of satellites just hurling through space. We have some of the most advanced photographic technology known to man. We have astronauts, right? We've landed on the moon. Nobody has ever taken a picture. Nobody that's traveled beyond the atmosphere, through the stratosphere, into space. Nobody's ever pulled out their smartphone or a camera and just taken a picture from the International Space Station or from the moon or from a satellite.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? I've never seen a picture that I hadn't later learned was CGI. So you're right. Where are all the, we can get all these cutesy little videos from inside the supposed International Space Station of these astronauts making calls. Why can't we get a pic out the window of our home planet? It doesn't make any sense. Just the other day, NASA released this ridiculous computer-generated, what they called a video of a black hole. I mean, it was comical. It's just these lines swooshing around the screen, and then it goes away. And then, oh yes, this is real life. This is a real black hole. Never mind that we're telling you straight up it's made by CGI. Millions of people are now in the belief that this is real. I mean, it's a psyop really of epic proportions. And I do believe, Stu, that a lot of this space stuff is meant to take our eyes off of our home planet of Earth. Why can we not look inwards? We can't even get to the bottom of the ocean. We have no idea what's in Antarctica. We're not allowed to go find out. So why all the fuss about space? Why we're on this goose chase to supposedly find some other planet that contains water that humanoids could live on? It's completely ridiculous. And the amount of time that it would take us to get there, I mean, just like a light year, it takes it's like 5 million miles away. It's completely ridiculous. I saw some statistics the other day. If someone were to travel a light year with our current technology, they'd be sitting in a space capsule for 25,000 years. So none of this even makes sense. It's a psyop, plain and simple, to keep our eyes off of looking inwards. There's something going on here on Earth, and you're starting to hear more of the sort of the in the know type of people about this, and people who for a long time believed in UFOs. And they're saying, hey, look inwards. If this is happening, it's likely coming out of the oceans. It's likely coming out of the what we've been told are the pole regions of the Earth.
Wasn't there discovered footage of this supposed moon landing? Wasn't there footage of a green screen that was actually used?
Yes. There's a cord in the background. It's the entire thing reeks of a Hollywood studio setup, and it never made sense to me. I in 2024 can pick up the phone and call parents on the other side of Virginia and the call drops, but these guys were on a phone from the moon with the president on live TV. It's a joke.
Yeah, I've got questions about the way that we spin as well. So we're hurling, I believe it's like some odd 68,000 miles per hour through this universe, right? With millions of other planets and stars and moons and all of these things. And then we're spinning on an axis at the same time. I believe it's 1,080 miles per hour, I believe, is what a Google search, right? Really reliable information there. 1,080 miles per hour, I believe, is what we're spinning at. So if I'm flying on an aircraft at 550 miles per hour and I'm going from Minneapolis to, Orlando, Florida, how will I ever catch up? Or am I waiting then for Orlando to catch up to me? And then wouldn't that take 24 hours for that to happen? Am I just hovering? How does this work?
I have no idea. The hovering. That's exactly what was going through my mind. Is what are you doing? Are you hovering there and you're waiting for Orlando to come show up? It's no one has been able to explain this to us. And if you start asking questions about it, that just deride it as some kind of conspiracy nut or some kind of idiot, who's denying science.
Oh yeah, they're telling me in my ear right now that I'm an idiot and that it's the entire atmosphere you see that's also spinning at 1,080 miles per hour. So you're not really flying at 550. You're actually flying and then somehow being whisked along with this spinning atmosphere. This object, this aircraft, is then being apparently grabbed by the atmosphere, and then so you're actually going 1,580 miles per hour. It's really, that's pretty advanced.
Yeah, and it's amazing because the scientific, just the science in general, you're supposed to be able to open up to question. There's very specific issues that we're not allowed to question, and this is one of them. And we haven't been allowed to for 500 years, 600 years. So what is at play here?
I was always told that wind is created by the uneven heating of the Earth's surface. That's what creates wind. Wouldn't it? It would be a pretty windy day, I would think, if we were traveling at 68,000 miles per hour and spinning at 1,080. I would believe. How does the water stick? How do we have calm days on the lake?
Yeah, shouldn't the water be all about to just run out of the side of the lake? Or get blown all into oblivion? It's when you start looking into it, we shouldn't be sitting still, I guess, at any time at all. And no one has ever been able to satisfactorily explain to me how you could theoretically go from the North Pole on around Earth, from the North Pole to the South Pole, and not be hanging off of it, or not have some kind of change in the relativity of how you're perceiving things. People say this all the time. You go up into airplanes. There's no flat as far as the eye can see. Wouldn't you imagine that there was some kind of curvature that you would see after a certain period of time?
The curvature changes every 55 meters. That's what we're told to believe. Every 55 meters. So it brings another question is, aside from the fact that when you're on an airplane and you take off, you feel that, right? When you're on a roller coaster and you drop, if you change altitude in an elevator, a slow-moving elevator, you feel it in your stomach. It's hard to explain, but everybody knows what I'm talking about, what that feeling is. When you descend in an airplane and you start your initial descent, even an altitude shift of just a couple hundred feet, you feel that drop, right? So if the Earth is curving every 55 meters, and I'm traveling, let's just say again, from Minneapolis to Florida, 1,300 and some odd miles. That's a long flight. That's a long distance to cover. But I don't have to adjust. The plane doesn't have to adjust its altitude to stay at its cruising altitude of 32,000 feet, for example. The pilot, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be cruising at 32,000 feet. All this. Now, I think they all go to voice school as well because they all sound the same. But then I don't have to continuously descend to stay at that 32,000 feet. If it's this ball and I'm flying here, wouldn't I just my altitude would just continue to get greater, wouldn't it? My distance between the Earth and the aircraft would continue to increase, I would think. They're telling me again, no, that
Yes.
I'm an idiot, because the whole thing is, the plane is inside of the snow globe as well. So it's ridiculous. Here's what I do know. NASA is full of everything that we've ever been told by these people is a lie. I'm not committing to saying, hey, I think it's flat, because I don't know. I just want to ask the question, and you're right. I can say anything on the internet, but as soon as I take to X and I say, hey, if it changes every 55 meters, then why can I see that boat out there through this, binocular or monocular? Why can I see that at all of these miles away? Why, when I'm in the aircraft, does it look pretty flat? Why isn't it wavy and windy constantly? If you ask any of this, or even just say, looks pretty flat to me, people just come unglued. They can't fathom that from this young age, when you walk into the classroom, the first thing that every teacher has on their desk is this globe. And you're not allowed to question that, because if they grab control of you like that at that age, they own you for the rest of your life. 1 minute left. Final words here.
Yeah, they do own the rest of your life, Stu. Really, at the core of this is that we all have to come to accept that everything that we've been told for our entire lives by our government-funded schools, our run schools, about this entire world around us is all fake. And until it's proven, it's all just a theory. It is anti-science that we're not allowed to ask questions about this. And when I think about this kind of stuff, it takes me back to this saying you used to hear out of guys back in 70s movies, free your mind and your follow. And that's what the global ruling class is terrified of. We free our minds and our follow away from them, away from their system, and away from this big charade, and we take ourselves to the next level of our existence. And it's everything is groomed for us to just accept it as little drones and go straight forward, and we can't have it.
Everything that we've ever seen, our entire world, is built on propaganda and fake images and computer-generated images and lies. Frankie Stocks, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
I think I need a moment.
You could do that. Or you could go get in your car and drive away.
Now, why would I do that?
Because some roads you shouldn't go down. Because maps used to say there'd be dragons here. Now they don't. But that don't mean the dragon's right there.
The first big project, successful project of modern science was that, mapping the world. And it was obvious to everybody that it's not being done out of sheer curiosity. It's being done in order to control and to conquer.
I like to be an explorer, like the great Magellan.
Oh, you're too late. There's really nothing left to explore.
Mapping the world was the first step to conquering it.
Antarctica, the mysterious massive continent that nobody is allowed to explore.
When you type in Antarctica from space, that is what they show you.
Why is it I can show you the South Pole and the North Pole.
You don't
of
think
Saturn.
anything's weird about the fact that the satellites don't go over the assumed North Pole or South Pole, that there's no actual imagery from space satellites of the North and South Pole, but then they show us the North and South Pole of Jupiter? You don't think that it's weird that we just get cartoons?
After sailing over 60,000 miles along the Antarctic coastline, Captain Cook was never able to complete the journey around the ice continent, which is supposed to be just under 12,000 miles around. Neither was James Clark Ross or the British ship Challenger. Many so-called flat earthers claim that these attempts failed because Antarctica is actually a massive ice barrier that surrounds the flat surface of the Earth. The azimuthal equidistant projection map, produced by the U.S. Geological Survey, has been used for centuries for the fact that all directions or azimuths are correct and all distances are at true scale. Studying this map, one can clearly see how man has been able to accurately circumnavigate the Earth on a flat plane model. And if it is in fact accurate, then it explains why after 60,000 miles, nobody has been able to completely circumnavigate Antarctica. To this day, the public is strictly prohibited from traveling below the 60th southern parallel.
Anything below the 60th south parallel is referred to as the Antarctic Treaty Area. What does that mean?
You have to get permits. You cannot privately and freely explore there. You can't just go down there and start exploring. That's literally a lie to claim that you can. We know you can go on a approved guided tour, but you have to get a permit to explore.
What's the problem? Well, among other things, we are messing with their food chain. And we have got to do something about it. We suggest a ban on all marine harvesting.
Airplanes are prohibited from flying over the icy continent. What are they hiding?
1 billion people found out tomorrow that they can all go to outer land space and visit other tribes, and civilizations, and explore technology and animals. The whole system would crumble. If there's more resources, natural resources, if there's more food for our starving children, if there's more space, more room for us to get away from the child sex trafficking, if there's places where we can go and other civilizations we can be a part of where they don't charge you for water, they don't charge you for free energy, they don't charge you for property taxes. All these corrupt systems that are stealing money from us, kidnapping our children, they rely upon the cattle staying on the ranch, the slaves on the plantation.
Move out! Truman! No! That's off limits!
Why? What's happening?
Nothing. It's dangerous, that's all. You've got to know your limitations, Truman.
Flying because there's an energy field all around us that you can tap into, that we don't need fuel, we don't need electrical grids, we don't need any of that. The way that they fly their UFOs is they take advantage of that. Using electromagnetic propulsion, they know that there's an ether. Tesla said he knew how to make UFOs. The Germans said they knew how to make UFOs. Ancient Vedic text makes reference to UFOs.
What if those people got in those UFOs and went to these outer lands? They've been out there for years, they're further advanced than us, and now they're coming back and they're, observing us. And of course, the government can't let us know that, because if we ask them, where did you come from? And they say 6,000 miles that way, we go, what? That's Antarctica. No, on the other side.
Yeah, if there's more land, why wouldn't they lie?
So this is a map that's 1,000 years old, supposedly, this one here. And you'll see that it's got the map of the Earth in here, and then you've got all these continents outside here.
There's also the navigator William Morris, who straight up says that there's over 179 other pieces of land that are inhabited, but they know about us. They call us the inner lands. Now that sounds crazy. It's speculation. I don't know. But that is a very interesting thing. That dude was highly connected. His daughter writes about it. They claim that it's a very real thing, that there's tons of land when you go further south. I don't know if there is or not, but you would have to agree. If there was a lot more land, and there was a sinister group of people that wanted to control you, which is evident that exists, if they drew a circle around you like the Hunger Games and said you can't leave your little playpen, that obviously makes them way more powerful, right? Like way more powerful, because they can monitor you, they know exactly where you're going. You've removed innovation and exploration. You just have a group of slaves sitting here consuming fuel and killing each other and eating toxins and not exploring anywhere.
We can all have, thousands of acres of land to ourselves. The whole system crumbles. The entire system crumbles. Period. You've been conditioned your entire life. It's okay to lie. It's okay to be lied to. So when the lie comes out, people are just like, okay, whatever. Got to turn on my Fox News. Got to go to the bar. Got to go watch my football. Give them bread and circuses, and they will never revolt.
Let's say you have a slave who's actively trying to find their freedom but doesn't know where the door is. That's not great if you're a slave owner, right? So you'd much rather have a slave that knows exactly where the door is, can leave anytime they want, and choose not to.
Here, how about this? So the boat that did the Vendée Globe got the record for going around or whatever. Those guys, they tell you they're going around Antarctica. How do you know that? Explain. So those boats that go around, they do their whole little trip, they get back, they do the calculations, and they come out that they were doing 4 knots. Okay? 4 knots. For the world record of going around the southern hemisphere. When the boat, go look up the boat does 35 knots. Guess what? There's a current that goes west to east of 2 knots. So how is it that boats magically slow down to 4 knots? And it'd be like me telling you I broke the world record for driving a car. Be like, really? How fast did you go? Be like 45 miles per hour? You'd be like, what are you talking about? Cars go way faster. And I go, well, they didn't in my race. My race, I wanted 44 miles.
Well, wait, look, here's the world record in the north. It's going 220. And you're like, no, but dude, I set the world record in the south. It's 45. In our paradigm, the south is way bigger, right? And what a coincidence that the world record of the boats is way faster in the north than in the south. But it would make sense if they assume a globe. So they assume a symmetrical distance in corresponding northern and southern latitudes, right? And so then they do their little race, they assume that distance, and then they're taking way longer to do it, and they're like, what's going on? That must mean we're going way slower. Or they're actually going fast, just like the boats always do, but they're going further than they think they are. And so they assume the shorter distance of the globe, and they get a shorter.
And we only believe this because there's an accumulation of evidence like this, the undersea cables. Why is it that the undersea cables do not cross the Southern Ocean? So so what can happen is if we took this and bent it, you didn't do a flat Earth map, right? Take like one of these maps and bend it into a flat Earth map. Well, if you did that, you wouldn't break any of the undersea cables. They'd all stay intact. So there's no cables, no cruises. The planes go way too slow. All those things are you just like it. It's okay with you.
Flat Earth is the most important knowledge we can obtain. You have to have permission to do everything. You people think you're free? You're not free. You're free-range chickens. That's what you are. You're free-range chickens held in an area you're not allowed to go past, and if not, you go to jail or you get shot. Stay on the plantation, do what you're supposed to do, pay your taxes, and shut up.
And not everybody can be a robot polisher.
World's been toying with her. It's a test, I swear it is. You just gotta pop the whole thing off and go. No matter what's out there.
Why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
It's the most important thing. It opens the door for everything else. You want to know the truth? You have to know where you live.
Mapping the world was the first step to conquering it.
We accept the reality with which we're presented.
Accept the reality with which we're presented.
Close your eyes.